It's time to work that career and lift and push and lift and push. You got it. Now harder. Lift and push. It's the career workout. Well, we have a really, really interesting topic here for the career workout this time. And we've been posting these questions on your Facebook page. And to me, it's always been interesting to see sort of what's been going on there. But bring us around here. Tell us what we're talking about, Tara.
So Starbucks has been talking about leaving Facebook because of the negative comments. Starbucks presents a very liberal leftist political view. So when Derek Chauvin was convicted, Facebook, oh my gosh, Starbucks went to their social media platform, mostly Facebook, and posted about their support for BLM and their support for Derek Chauvin's conviction, their support for anti-racism movements and things of that nature. Well, because it's a political type of statement, they got the opposing, I cannot talk tonight. Holy crow.
Have you had too much wine?
I know. I don't know what my problem is yet. They, of course, when you present one view, the opposing view is going to come at you. Well, I think Starbucks may have underestimated just how much balance they were going to get. They cannot control the comments coming in. They can't keep up with them. And because they've made multiple posts, they've gotten hundreds of thousands of comments, and there's just no way for them to keep up with those. So they're talking about, hey, everybody's so negative, we're just going to hop off Facebook. And of course, everybody's like, see ya. Have fun. Don't care.
Nobody's saying, oh, no, please don't go.
We're not buying your coffee
stay.
anyway.
Yeah.
And I like my Starbucks. I do have my Starbucks tea, and I do partake only because I like my local baristas. They are my high school students that I love to see, that I've watched growing up. I'm not a big fan of the political platform that Starbucks embraces, because mostly I don't want to know, because I don't want to stop buying their stuff. I want their goods and services.
So you're just like,
and so
just give me my coffee. I just
don't
want my
know.
coffee.
Just stop telling me what you're talking about. Well, and part of that is too, is because if I'm sporting that Starbucks cup and they've recently gone out on a leftist, rant, I don't want people thinking, oh, she buys Starbucks. She must be a leftist.
Now you become identified with their politics, right?
And so I want to be very careful. And anybody who knows me knows my political stance. What's funny is if you think you know me, but you really don't, you also think I'm a feminist, which is a whole other show we should probably do. But
that's a couple of shows right there.
Right. I'm okay with that. So I posted the question on my Facebook page, because we've got some really great minds on my Facebook page. You guys are awesome to come through like you do. I had to know if should companies offer their political stance to their consumer base, to their market? And whatever your answer is, why or why not? And man, we got some. I mean, the overall thing was no. Don't tell me because you're not a person. You shouldn't have a political view. Or do tell me, because then I know that way if I want to spend my money with you, because of the affiliation factor. I don't want to be known I don't want to be known for what you are, what you're supporting. So if you're, if like somebody doesn't want to support the BLM, but they are law enforcement, they don't want to support a company that supports BLM. They want to support the companies that support the law enforcement, right?
Well, and I think it's fair to point out that all these topics are so polarizing, right? And
very much
they're not polarizing necessarily for the obvious reasons why they're polarizing, right? I think, for BLM, people aren't saying, well, no, Black lives don't matter. They're just saying that, hey, that's not the right way to talk about it.
Right. There's another way. Right. So it's not a racist view at all. And that's what ticks people off is it's in a society of we're all included, we all belong. There's a space for everybody. We're still singling out and divisive when it comes to certain things. Like there's certain colleges and universities that are having Asian only or Black only ceremonies.
But that's racist, right? I
you
mean, that's going back to the 1940s, the 1930s.
Well, even the 1950s and 60s.
I mean, that's actually regressing.
Yes, but people totally are saying they need. But that's what's funny is it's a double standard. We don't want to be separate, but we need our own thing,
right?
Without you white folk in there, or without you folk or this folk.
And I've said this a couple of times. It always goes back to the inverse test, right?
Right.
Can you inverse something and then still say that that's okay,
right?
And I
Right.
think in the case of having, black only events, you can't inverse it and say, well, it's okay to have white only events, right?
Exactly. And
Because
you shouldn't.
that would be racist, right? But
Right.
having somehow in our society we've come to accept that having a black only event is not racist. It is totally
Well, and I
racist.
think if, I was just at my second son graduated high school. He's in a very large 6A school. I believe it is the largest, if not the second largest in the state of Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And, as I watched and listened to every name and every person walk across that stage, I didn't realize how diverse Derby really is.
Right.
It is super diverse. Like there was all kinds of kids, all kinds of individuals graduating. So I think it comes to question, um, are we only seeing what we see because we surrounded ourselves with ourselves?
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, it would take a while to unpack that, right? But
Right.
let's go back to this
Right.
whole original topic,
Retrack.
which is should companies be social justice warriors, right? I think that's the big question
Right.
here. And
Well,
I always like Rick Jensen's comments on your stuff because he's got a
yes.
fantastic one.
We're going to get Rick on the show one of these days.
Rick
We're going to
needs,
pull
yeah,
him on
Rick, you're
here.
coming on the show.
You're awesome,
But
Rick. We
he's,
love you.
he says only if they want to drive away potential customers.
Yes.
And that hits the nail on the head. I mean,
Perfect.
I think some companies, but let's rewind the tape here a little bit, right? Like this all started 20 or 30 years ago with like, let's protect the environment, right? That's the first that I can remember
Yeah.
companies being like, we use recycled paper, and
Right.
we're saving the turtles. Like, remember where they changed the design of the
Yeah.
rings that go on the soda bottles
Yes.
so that the turtles didn't. I mean, I think all that stuff's got a positive impact, right?
Sure.
But the thing is that consumers don't want to hear that 24/7, right? They maybe
Right.
want to hear that you're making a positive impact, right? But they're not buying your product simply because you're a social justice warrior,
No, but
right?
and that's part of the thing too. If you scroll down and find Sherry Smith's comment, and she made a really outstanding comment on there about how she read something somewhere about a rating system that was presented to corporations out there, which really seems to push this whole agenda. And she's right. It's called corporate social responsibility. This was something I studied very heavily in college because of my background and what I was studying. And it is entirely true. These corporations, large companies out there, are expected to meet a social um, responsibility um, s- spectrum. And
Right.
that is how diverse is your organization? So, how many different cultures do you have? How many different races do you have? How many different representations of all of the communities of practice out there? In addition to that, what does your carbon footprint look like? How much damage are you doing to our environment and the ozone layer? And so this has culminated into a big thing. And our employer partakes in this, and we do have our own. It's called a corporate social responsibility report, and we present that report to the powers that be, and then they rate us based on that, and then they compare us to everybody else out there in the world. You're not compared to like companies; you're compared to everybody.
Right.
It's one big
But
scale.
here's the problem that I have with that, right? I'm in engineering. Engineering is a male dominated field. It has
Right.
been for a long time. But let's be, but it's not male dominated because I mean and it used to be. And I've heard stories of where it was hard for a woman to get in engineering, but those are well in the past.
Right.
But the current status of today is if you're a woman and you want to be an engineer, you're going to find more opportunities than you can handle. You will get more
Mm-hmm.
job offers than you know what to do with.
Yep.
You will likely be able to go to school for engineering for free because there are more scholarship opportunities trying to encourage women to get into the STEM fields, right?
Right.
And I think all that's great. I mean, if you want to be an engineer and you're a woman, come on down because you're going to get free education. You're going to get tons of job offers,
Right.
okay? But all that said, we still don't have a ton of women in engineering.
I'll tell you why.
Why?
I will tell you why. As when I was working for a university not too long ago as an academic advisor, the women that came in there to do another male dominated field is cybersecurity, computers.
Right, yep.
Very male dominated. We were out seeking women on purpose because we knew as a university we did not have enough women, and we needed we needed that personality. We needed that point of view to help mold this program into super success. We couldn't do it with one community of practice alone. So we went out seeking women. Do you know what women were afraid of when we would sit down with them? The biggest thing they were afraid of was numbers, the math. Because when you do, even in cybersecurity, calculus and I can't remember the other one, and Dr. Ike will kill me for not remembering it right now, but there's a lot of math incorporated into cybersecurity in order to create the environment to produce what you need
Yeah,
to
sure. It's
produce.
a numbers game.
It is a
So
numbers game,
yeah.
and women are scared. There's a lot of women who are scared to
Well,
death of
but
that.
and I
They're
think that
terrified.
that goes back into our primary education where
Oh,
math needs to be taught better and differently and all.
that's
I mean,
what.
this is a whole nother
Yes.
rabbit hole we can go down.
Right.
But my whole point here is, um, obviously I don't think we're being sexist against women in engineering.
Oh no, I've seen
Women
engineering. We're not.
women are just not showing up. And
No.
so when you say we've got this social responsibility report that we're supposed to have X number of women versus X number of men,
Yeah.
who comes up with those metrics? I mean, who decides that that's the right ratio? I
Yeah.
mean, to me, you should let these things fall out naturally, right? I mean,
Right.
if 10% of want to show up and they're women, then that's fine. If it's 20, if it's 30, if it's
Well,
50, great.
so flip
I
the
mean,
coin on that one. Why aren't more men staying home with their kids?
well, but that trend has been changing. I do a lot of work with shared parenting,
Yeah.
and we're seeing a lot more dads that are engaged with with their children, and particularly in cases of divorce, we're seeing more cases of shared parenting where the parents share the children
Well,
equal
but
time.
in
So I mean
any,
that narrative is totally changing, but
it
but
should.
there's a huge bias against men in the family court system because there's
Yeah.
still this whole like 1970s thing that the mom's a nurturer and all this kind of stuff. Even though there is a ton of
Mhm.
research to show that men and women are essentially equal in the
Oh,
caretaking provision, right?
I can
So
tell you.
I mean,
Yep.
but that's a whole nother rabbit hole
Rabbit
to go
hole.
down.
We have
But
so many rabbit holes
we're
to
trying to
present.
avoid the potholes so that we're not 3 hours long tonight. But
Right.
I mean, but to me, the whole thing is who decides these numbers, right? Who decides what's socially responsible and what isn't? I mean, if you can't get women to show up and come into engineering, then really you're not going to do anybody any justice by discriminating against the men,
Right.
right? To
We
bring
know.
up your numbers, to bring up to a false number that somebody picked out of thin air and has no basis at all on any sort of research.
Well, I don't think we're looking at the bigger picture after the NBA threw a big old fit. The NBA and the WNBA threw a big ass fit over who gets paid more. First of all, men bring in more money in the NBA because they're more fun to
Yep.
watch. Have you seen men's basketball versus women's basketball? I'll take a men's game over the women's
Well, I
game
mean,
because it's
the
more
men,
entertaining.
men bring in more seats.
They're
I mean, they fill
well,
more seats.
They're more
right?
entertaining.
Yeah.
They're willing to take the risks. They're willing to take the shots. They're willing to make the moves that are make it a show, right? So, but if you look at the numbers, like construction, did you know there's more women working in construction than there are men?
I did not know that. I would
And-
not have guessed that.
Right?
At all.
I was shocked. They're
Yeah.
paid higher too.
Right.
There's more women in construction than men, and they're paid higher. We're not looking at the bigger flipping picture. We're focusing on what feeds the narrative. And so women don't want to be in computers because it's boring to us. We don't want to be in engineering because it's boring to us. We want to be in something that's we're
so-
around kids. We want to be around people.
To be totally honest, that's a fair point. Okay.
it's
If you want to be in engineering, learn PowerPoint and Excel. Done deal.
I know.
Forget calculus. You're wasting your time. Anyhow, let's steer this boat back to this whole corporate or social responsibility thing,
Can't
right?
stay on track.
Because we are way off course here.
So-
but so overall, the comments that we saw was that hey, companies should just stick to selling products and services
Yeah.
and stay out of the social justice stuff.
Well,
And-
take accountability. If you're going to take that political stance, do so knowing you're going to lose people in it, and you invite the louder voices, not the higher number of voices.
Right.
It's not about the quantity, but the quality of the voice that comes at you, and be prepared to say no. Or
Well-
you end up like companies like Starbucks, where they're promoting something that most of the country does not agree with.
Well, but here's what I wonder too. Agree or disagree? I think that's a side issue, right? I think the bigger problem is that so many companies have jumped on this social bandwagon
Oh,
that
yeah.
people are they're just burnt out from it. I mean, they're
Yeah.
just tired of seeing it everywhere they turn.
Yep.
And really, they just want to go in and they want to buy their stuff and leave
Yeah.
and not have to worry about feeling guilted about some sort of
It's
social
shifting.
issue, right?
Yeah,
So
it's shifting, though.
I think the big, if you're corporate, if you work for a corporation and you're in marketing, like it sounds like people are saying, tone down the social justice stuff.
Yep.
And I think it doesn't mean that you have to stop doing social,
Right. Right.
social advocacy work. Do that too. just don't
Just
guilt your customers about it, right?
or your employees,
Or your
'cause if
employees.
that's one
Well, so
thing.
that's another point I was going to make, right? So you have all these companies that are out here on the high social justice horse, right?
Right.
But I wonder if you were to go ask the rank and file employees at those companies how those companies are treating those employees, what answer would you get? Would you get the, oh yeah, this is a fantastic place to work for, or is it,
Oh.
oh yeah, we get like half of our bonus every year, and
I'm gonna, you know
we
what? Let
we
me
have to work 80 hours a week,
let
and
me go start with the Starbucks baristas in my hometown. Let
well,
me start with them because I
so to be
guarantee you
clear,
they
fair,
do
I don't really
not.
want you to answer that, right? But
No, I'm just
but
saying.
that's the thing is, I think if you're going to be a social justice company, if you're going to be a social justice warrior, you need to start with your employees. You need to take care of them. You need to make sure they have
Right.
the best health care they can have, they have the best benefits they can have, they have the most
Yes.
time off
Make
that you
them
can give
want to
them.
work there.
You need to provide an environment that is safe and good and healthy for them
Yep.
first. Then you can go off and do all this social justice
Yep.
warrior stuff, because I guarantee you that most of these big companies out there are not happy and fun to work for.
Nope.
And because I know some people in some of them, and they're not all like rainbows and unicorns, right? So
No.
I think it's a pot calling the kettle black in some instances here,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I mean,
There is one company, Fox News reported on it. I wish I could remember the name of it, but they're not encouraging. Not going to say they're not asking employees not to, but they are not encouraging political talk
well,
at
I
work.
mean, we reported on it last time. There were some companies that said, "Hey, we're just not a social justice company.
Right.
Like, deal with it.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We do
We're
this other thing,
come here, work,
right?"
and go home. Like,
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's completely fair too. But I think this is just a case of the pendulum swinging too far in one direction. We're probably going to see it,
ugh,
probably go too far the other direction,
hurry up and swing.
and then it'll come back in the middle, right?
Hurry up and
Uh, but
swing.
but yeah, I think it's a good conversation to have. Is really what if you're a company, then your primary goal in life is to make coffee. Now, what I saw about Starbucks was the CEO of Starbucks said, well, the whole premise of Starbucks, because it's a third place between work and home, right? It's a place
Right.
where you can socialize, converse, have thoughtful conversations.
Yeah.
So in that respect, I mean, it does make sense for Starbucks to start driving some of those conversations. I think that does
To
make a lot.
drive them,
But
not
but
present a
well,
political platform.
yeah. So I think there's a fine line there, right?
Right.
I think Starbucks should be starting the conversation, giving food for thought. Hey, what do you think about this? But really, what they're doing is they're driving one side of an issue,
Right.
and that's the problem, is that they're not presenting both sides of the issue, or they're not starting the conversation. They're saying, if you're not on our side, we're going to make you feel bad. And
Right.
that's not what people want. People don't want to feel bad about going and getting a $7 coffee, right?
Well,
With
exactly.
800 calories in it.
Right.
You know,
I mean, I do black coffee or tea, so
well,
But to your point, when you in pushing the Chauvin case, obviously, I think as a country we're all on the same side as how that Chauvin thing went down.
well,
what
but
should
we're
have
not
happened.
though. I mean, I think
Well,
there's a lot of split there. I mean, I don't think anybody's on the side that said that George Floyd should have died. I don't think anybody's really said that.
Yeah, no,
But I think there's been a lot of controversy as far as and we've talked about it here. I mean, obviously what happened was wrong,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
But I think the question is the reform happening that needs to happen,
Well,
right? And was it one bad apple, or was this is it a systemic issue? I
and
mean,
we're gonna see that take a whole other
know,
different turn with that one juror
right.
coming out wearing the BLM shirt now.
Yeah,
That's
that's gonna drag this thing on even more,
talk
and,
about a hard right.
and then the other thing too is, I mean, like we talked about before. I mean, what happened to George Floyd in his life that society let him down so far that he got to the low point that he was in his life? And that's really the conversation that we need to be having. Is not so much, I mean, of course, police killing people bad, right? Nobody's going to argue that.
But
But the
yes.
bigger picture here is, why are people in our societies in our modern day age, with all of the resources that we have, why are people getting to those lows? And why,
Well, that's
why is somebody getting, why is there 3 cops over a $20 bill? I mean,
No.
I mean, the city was spending more than $20 to deal with a $20 issue, right?
That's a good
So I mean, just the salary of the cops,
Yeah.
for 3 people for 2 hours is way more than $20. People,
Agreed.
okay,
Agreed.
So I think the bigger conversation we need to have is around, how do we treat the members of our society, which are, maybe not real high functioning, and what opportunities can we give those people so that they don't end up,
Well, I mean,
getting themselves in trouble like this?
I've known a few family members, my family, other people's family, what have you, that have chosen the drugs type lifestyle, have chosen a criminal lifestyle. It's addictive.
Yeah,
Once you
no, I
get in,
totally
it's
get
hard
that.
to get out.
But
There's
here's the
they
thing,
have to want it to
right,
get
but
out.
we have totally reduced the amount of mental hospitals we have. We've totally reduced the amount of money we spend on mental health care.
Well, that's
You know,
because there was a leftist agenda too, though, is to get rid of those places because they're not okay to have, so to speak. And I disagree. Those are great places to have because they focus on something. But we'll have to get into that rabbit hole another time because we again got way off subject.
we are
So
way off
do
topic.
as you want as a
So,
business. Just
yeah.
accept the repercussions.
But tell us what you think in the comments. We really,
Yes.
really would love to hear what you think about this because, I mean, we're just up here telling you our opinions, but really, it's you who needs to tell us what you think,
Yeah.
and
we
again,
can revisit this conversation.
have
So that would be great.
have the conversation. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
Have the conversation. We're not telling you what to think. We're just asking you to have a conversation and maybe
think what you want,
think just a little bit differently.
but think.
But think.
but
think. And
Think,
change your
McFly.
passwords, people. Change your passwords, okay? And if you didn't watch our news segment, you
Go
won't
back.
make any sense to you. But
Rewind.
make sure you change your passwords. And for crying out loud, keep your computers up to date.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's gonna
right.
lead us into our obsession for sure.
Let's go into the obsession of the week. Thanks for watching. We'd love to know what you think in the comments. Just let us know below. And remember, that's just a small portion of our entire show that we put on every week. So if you want more of the Biz and Mayhem podcast, you can head over to Facebook or YouTube where you can watch the video versions. Or if you want to just listen to it, you can get the Biz and Mayhem podcast on any of your podcast platforms wherever you listen. Remember just to search for the Biz and Mayhem podcast. And we would really appreciate it if you would go and like our page on Facebook, hit the bell on YouTube, and really share that word about the podcast so we can get more people listening to the show. And again, we do this every week, so we really appreciate you tuning in. Let us know what you think in the comments. And until next time, have fun in the mayhem. The Biz and Mayhem podcast is produced by Check 6 Creative Studio. If you have a podcast or have been wanting to start one, let us know. We'd love to help you produce and edit your podcast. We'd also love to work with your business on marketing and video production. Visit us on the web at check6studio.com. That's CheckSixstudio.com. Let us know you heard about us on the Biz and Mayhem podcast.